Okay, picking up where we left off, we just finished talking about CEDAR and where the dividing line goes between the network part and the host part. Well, the next thing we're going to talk about is IPv6. So again, I may do you to contrast between IPv4. I may ask you what's the difference in size. I may what problem did it try to solve. Those kinds of high level things. Again, not a tremendously difficult one there. Not a scratch your head kind of thing. So now we're into chapter 5. We're talking about TCP responsibilities. So using TCP as an example of a good L4, what does it do for a living? Or I could be asking you, I could pick one of those things. Remember reliability and segmentation, and all that stuff, right? I may pick one of those and then have you drill down a little bit deeper and say, give an example of where this is used or not used or something like that. The next one is all about segmentation. And I put a no in here because I'm talking specifically about something you can do to segmentation on purpose to make a feature better or worse. Okay? So again, you're probably going to have to go look in the lecture notes to find that, because you're not going to find that in the book. The next one is about reliability, and it's kind of along the same lines. I'm just picking out some TCP things to talk about and say, this one's going to be like, how does the reliability thing work? Remember how I send you a packet in either a stop and wait or a sliding window kind of a thing, and you have to tell me, what you got, that kind of thing. So it's not going to be down in the weeds, but it's going to be, is this, I may paint you a picture and say, is this how the reliability system works? Yes or no? Cool. The next one talks about ports. And this could be one of those things where, explain in your own words what a TCP port or a UDP port is or does for a living, or, something along the lines of what do ports do. And again, I am not going to ask you to memorize, port 80 is this and 443 is that and 20 and 21 is this. That's not the kind of questions I'm going to be asking. The next one talks about the differences between TCP and UDP. You guys just finished a paper on this. I'm pretty sure you got this, so I think we're okay. I think we're ready to move on. The next one talks about a UDP application. I put a no in there because I kept giving you examples of applications that use UDP, and I explained them in a little bit of great detail about what options are available, and so I'm going to be asking you some of that. Chapter 6 talks about applications, and so I may ask you something like, what do applications have access to, or what does layer 4 talk to, or what does layer 3 talk to? It's going to be one of those overview kind of questions about, do you really understand how layer 5 or 5 through 7, if you're using the other model, what its responsibilities are and how it talks to the rest of the things. Okay. The next one talks about HTML5, and I may ask you, what was the problem that HTML4 had that needed to be replaced with 5? Or I may ask you something a little bit more along the lines of, does this describe a markup language, or is it a protocol for doing transport, that kind of stuff. Email. So email is going to be one of those things. Remember in the lecture and in the book, they talked about some of the advantages and disadvantages of email, and it was kind of philosophical. It wasn't an awful lot of technical stuff, but asynchronous communication, all the rest of that junk. That'd be a good thing for you to know. The simple mail transport protocol, I talked in great deal about how this used to be all you needed, and so after a while, though, when people started changing the way mailboxes are created and stored and locations of them, we need additional protocols to be able to pull it off. So I'm going to ask you some questions along that line. For example, how do we get there? The next we're talking about email protocols. And so I may give you a scenario, just like I did in lecture, about I have both a laptop and a tablet and a home PC, and I'm getting ready to go on vacation, and I want to be able to read my email while I'm gone and be able to see the old emails that I've already received. Which protocol is going to allow me to do that? That'd be a good question. Now we're in Chapter 7. DHCP fundamentals, like what does it do for a living? Why do I need one? That kind of stuff. Or it could be one of those, describe the problem that existed prior to DHCP. Okay, that's a good question. The allocation options. In the book, they talked about 3 different allocation options. About I could have permanent leases, I could have permanent leases that are assigned by me, or I could just have these dynamic leases, all those kinds of things, how that all works. It's in the book. No, it's not bad. It's also in the lecture notes, of course. The next one talks about private addresses. I've been using examples of private addresses for a lot of the lectures. I'm talking about how, for example, my machines at home have a 192.168.1 dot something, and that's a private address, and I have a NAT-based router that allows me to talk to the rest of the world. So I ask you some questions about that. Again, I'm not asking you for address ranges. Is this a private address? No, that's not what we're talking about. Kind of sort of along the same lines is NAT. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Again, it's going to be kind of high altitude, like how does this work, or what does it do for a living? How in the world does it allow me to use a private address and still operate? That's a good question. ARP. We did a demo in the lecture where I attempted to ping on a machine that was not on the network, and then go look in the ARP table and see if things were in there or not. So that's kind of sort of like that kind of a scenario is what this question could be about. Attempting to get an entry into the ARP table. Okay. The next one is DNS. So kind of a big picture, which of the following are true of the advantages of using a DNS? It's a boom, 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 boom. Yes, no, yes, no. You just go down the list and click. The 2 extra credit ones, one of them's going to be on 802.3 cable links, and I think I've beat this one to death. And I really feel bad if you haven't figured this one out yet. I really do. Extra credit, easy way for you to make an extra 4 points. And the next one's going to be about encapsulation. We've been talking about encapsulation, about this packet gets inside this packet, and this packet gets inside that packet. So I want to visually show you how all that works, and you tell me which one is the correct one or not. Okay, ladies and germs, this is it. I do want you to study, because without studying, you're not going to do well. Please do study. Look over the lecture notes. Look over the previous quizzes. All the questions and answers will be released by then. And take the dang quiz, and I wish you guys well. All right. We'll see you again in the next chapter.